Hey, welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's weekend Broiler Chicken Show. Back. Wow. I guess if there was going to be an end to the cycle, some fireworks and drama, I suppose, would be in store. And also, too, but it was like there was mounting problems in the background. There's one thing after another, after another, after another, and then all of a sudden, boom, all came together in a head quite violently there on Friday. Sad part about it, though, is I think that this market is stunningly manipulated. Um, and what a surprise. Yeah, as Mr. House says there. Taco's now trying to pull another taco. Um, Well, I guess the problem that I have with this is the American public at some point is just going to be like, this is ridiculous. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happens this next November. So we got another year of this ahead of us. I don't know how long lasting the sell off's going to be. But as I've said repeatedly over the past, I don't know, probably 6, 8 weeks or so, there's just so many things that were like, oh, that's problematic. Oh, that's not going to end well. That probably can't, not a good sign. And so the broader market did break last Friday. Um, Interestingly enough, if you actually look at the price charts, I don't think a heck of a lot of technical damage has been done to Bitcoin. Just a down week so far. I suppose we'll look at the price charts in a bit on that. And then, unfortunately, if I'm not mistaken, it was almost like this was a coordinated, I hate to say it, but I suppose if different political parties were in power, they might even use the word conspiracy. But it was interesting. Sjord, Tricto, posted this interesting tweet write up of what happened there on Friday in the crypto space. And the interesting thing is, and I've often talked to all of you guys about this, right? It's sort of like the fundamentals and then the known fundamentals. And unfortunately, us in the public, we're kind of just flying blind as to the actual fundamentals that are driving price action. So it's like Friday, I put out a just I came back. No, I think it was Friday afternoon to my screen, and all hell was breaking loose in crypto land. And it's like, okay, what the hell just happened? And unfortunately, this is a function of unregulated market space. You guys love unregulation so much. And actually, it's been a while since we've had a rip roaring scandal within the crypto space. So if anything, this is probably, I hate to say it, it's probably a little overdue. But anyway, I thought this was an interesting read on what's sort of going on in the background. Um, And I have to say, whether it be with regard to the stock market or whether it be the crypto market, I think there was a conspiracy there in the crypto markets. Um, One thing I noticed on Friday that really surprised me in the stock market was the amount of put options that were both written, considering this isn't even a monthly options expiry. Monthly options expiry is this Friday. Oh boy. So last Friday, the 10th, very odd, just like an odd week in the market. And yet the number of put options that were written on, this is just one particular ETF, the spiders. I mean, these numbers are huge. And all of them all expired in the money, meaning that there was a massive, just an absolutely staggering, like just on this one ETF alone. And just imagine how many. I think someone said there's more ETFs in the stock market than there are stocks now. I mean, this is just pathetic what's going on here. But just off of this SPY, it's like $17 billion just changed hands there. $17 billion. That's a hell of a lot of money. Um, and interestingly enough, of course, stock market was down huge. So a lot of these options that would not have been expired in the money Thursday or Wednesday, all of a sudden mysteriously are all now in the money. And now we hear that Taco's coming out and blowing kisses to the Chinese now, and just over the top social media posts about how much he loves Winnie the Pooh and all that kind of nonsense, which just smacks of market manipulation. You know, well, don't worry about China; it'll all be fine. Highly respected President Xi. I don't know whether he had a bad moment or you had a bad moment. It's probably a combination of both. Probably Z is taking his kids' investment recommendations on Ethereum. Oh, man, what a train wreck that guy is. And interesting how he's not even commenting about his World Liberty coin is absolutely collapsing, or his Donald Trump coin or Melania coin got absolutely destroyed there through that hack. Not even mentioning anything about that. Anyway, so I get the impression that a lot of what you saw on Friday was actually just good old Taco manipulating the market, which is kind of pathetic, really. I thought, as a species, we were long beyond this sort of stage of existence. But man, it's remarkable to watch how what maybe I'm just a naive fool, but just absolutely stunning market manipulation going on around you, right in front of our faces. Like I said, I mean, this was so well coordinated that this is probably of course, making accusations, you probably wind up in jail these days, but I would not be surprised if there was some sort of conspiracy behind all of this, because this is just way too coordinated. um and it speaks to how dangerous crypto really is nowadays, and this whole unregulated market space. There's a story I often tell people in the level 1 program about 19th century American capitalism, and a gentleman by the name of Jay Gould, who was a notorious shyster. In fact, when I was a VSE penny stockbroker, we used to call the people that would shill these garbage companies paper hangers. Is like literally you print the share certificate, you hang it up to dry, and the moment it's dry, upstairs it goes, and Mr. Gould would be selling the share certificate to some unbeknownst fool for ridiculous amounts of money. And it definitely feels like we're heading back into that kind of world, which is such a shame. Like I said, a little disappointed in this species. It's funny how at the end of the Cold War, we even marked that this would be the absolute best standard of living the average human being on this planet will see. And it's remarkable to look back. Like, what is this? This is now 40 years, and to see the absolute destruction of all morals, all ethics, all sort of principles of fairness. It's remarkable how it's just all completely evaporated. Quite remarkable. Anyway, kind of a sad commentary on the times we live in, I suppose. So like I always started off I think I remember I started off the last couple broadcasts with you people kind of saying, I don't know what the hell I'm going to say to you over the next few months because this is just going to be insanity. And it is. And the thing is I often tell people, I even posted it in the TRI chat room here this morning. Don't bother going into the business of predicting the future because whatever the hell the future is actually going to be, it's going to be more outlandish, more crazy, more over the top, more than that. If you actually wrote that, people would say, "Oh, there's no way that could happen. Oh, you're crazy." And yet here we are. If I understand correctly, the selling was basically instigated by political leadership. Wow, that's a great sign for our society. Exacerbated by, I think, almost it felt like a rush to the exits. In fact, I think I even tweeted that out. You could just feel just nobody wanted to be long heading into the weekend. It was just get out of my way kind of idea. So obviously the people in the know, they obviously knew something was brewing. Um, I mean, just the question is how deep does this go? And I never really want to head down those rabbit holes. It's never really a positive out of all this. Um, I did find Mr. Hayes's comment there about how no, this cycle is never going to end kind of idea. And what's fascinating about this is he's making the commentary the liquidity in the market is actually pretty good, but I think liquidity in the market right now is actually really, really bad and getting worse. So I didn't quite understand his rhetoric here, but wow, talk about bad timing. I thought that was kind of funny. Ironically enough, from a trader's perspective, and I don't know how many of you are traders or just little old ladies hoping to God crypto goes up and pay off the mortgage and all that kind of stuff. But from a trader's perspective, I actually don't mind the idea of hunting scalps down here. They basically took a lot of the fluff out of the market. I'm not exactly which dip Donald Trump Jr. Terrible picker. My God, don't listen to that guy. I think he was making reference to buy this dip, but I think you'll probably over history you'll find that. Well, actually, I meant this dip. This is the dip I was actually referring to. Who knows? And I did find it interesting that this market actually moving in a very symmetrical fashion. Also, too, something that kind of is jumping out at me right now, which is an interesting curveball because it feels like we're getting a sell the rumor into the BTC cycle event, which is it's an interesting curveball. I certainly was not expecting that. Probably which one would it be? I guess we have it all over here. Yeah. Do we have a situation where the market is soft into this big psychological event? Did find it interesting too. I hadn't looked at this chart in a little while, but I think this whole damn thing was a megaphone all along, which is a bit of a surprise. But 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I thought that was a bit surprising, which means, unfortunately, I don't know whether I can actually believe that this is some sort of bottom in here, or whether maybe we got to go down and probe these lows here and maybe wash out because we do have this really big. I don't know where it is. Well, I guess I don't have it on this chart. And I think I even started off the public tweet with sort of a comment that Didn't really actually see any technical damage done to Bitcoin here. Um, so I don't know. Frankly speaking, I'm a little sitting here just going, okay, well, now what do we do? What did I want to show you? I remember I had a confluence of levels. Yeah, maybe it's like it's this previous trendline peak and then this megaphone bottom. Also, to the profile, could we use a little bit of attention down here? I don't know. That's a tough one. Um, anyway, all along here, I've been sort of conjecturing, what do we kind of think that this top's going to look like? I suppose if we are thinking megaphone 1, 2, 3, then the midpoint would start here. One, actually, maybe more like 1, 2, 3. So yeah, this kind of thinking. I don't know whether we've completely finished here. That's a pretty big tail though. So there's a bunch of trap bears in there. I think they'll probably want to desperately get released, which means that they'd be buying if price does come back down there. Just feels as though that, all they did was just sort of wash highs, wash lows. I suppose we could probably adjust this now. I'll put you up there and put you, where are we going to put you? Yeah, I guess we'll put you here. So if anything, Mountain Man, I'll probably see the market probably run into a bit of traffic up against this trend line here. That wouldn't surprise me. Messy price action though, eh? Washing the highs, get everybody bullish, washing the lows, get everybody bearish. And really, I might even argue, like looking at the weekly chart, I think that's our trading range now. But, interestingly enough, this is why I like to follow the 13 EMA as closely as I do. Adam, say your line. Because all the 13 EMA, I mean, this market got kind of a little bit euphoric. We got up against this 1.618, which was nothing more than the chaos off of this consolidation here. We banged into that. And then when we did bang into that, the 4-hour momentum picture was just awful. I don't think I have it on here, but maybe I do. What's the best way to show you this? It's maybe over here. Interesting to see there are names that are actually moving up through all of this. So Amanda's Penthouse. I remember Amanda's Penthouse. Oh, those were the days. We were lamenting about what was it that we used to Monsters and Men, the music video. Somebody posted that in the lounge and goes, God, remember those days? Banging out like 9 doubles in a day. Well, I hope you all can remember what fear, greed, cycle apexes look like. Because we won't go into another one of those kind of environments for probably, well, about another decade. And the good part about it is the next one's in the stock market. So the paper hangers will be back. Paper hangers came out a little bit here recently, but I think the market just got a little too far ahead of itself. Come on, you. Geez, can't get that darn thing to cooperate. Anyway, something like that. Actually, if that's a lower low, then let's go off of that. So good old Amanda's Penthouse actually worked out exactly as history would say. That's cute. Now, interestingly enough, since we did Amanda's Penthouse, we should now do Chaos Theory. I mean, let's see if we can catch Mr. Foggenbaum and Amanda doing cheekies together. Oh, there they are. Amanda's sitting there, and there's Mr. Foggenbaum. Caught you red-handed. Anyway. So interesting to see names like Dash actually doing better. I haven't looked at Dash in forever. That's kind of fun. Just goes to show there's always a bull somewhere, eh? Actually, I wouldn't mind. I'll add this guy to the watch list. I haven't seen this guy in a while. That's now 2 years old. Anyway, so what I wanted to show you was if we look at the old Bitcoin price. Then look at the momentum. Yeah, there we are. And then look at the 4-hour. So as we were heading up top there, and hey, it's a bull market, we're all gonna get rich. The problem was, look at, and geez, this is such a great lesson for all of you. Um, Look how the momentum of this up move. I would have thought that was actually a very strong up move, but look at the momentum over here. So the MACD actually topped out on this push right here, and all of this was just bullshit. So you see that? And interestingly enough, I've been trying to not so much teach, but sort of illustrate to people. This is an old principle that I had actually kind of forgotten over the years. I've been playing this game forever. I was reminded recently while I was watching some other social media guy, and I was like, oh, yeah, I completely forgot about that. But when notice momentum here, and I like to use the MACD histogram for my momentum study. It's just me. It's my preferred momentum gauge. You notice that this whole momentum picture, especially where it goes into divergence over here, you notice that it kind of started down here. So this was sort of the origins of the move, and you could even argue that this bullish divergence was this move here. So really, this whole move started off of this point right down here. And if you do get a divergence, the irony of it all, the rule is that the market should come back to where the divergence actually started, which we said was like right down basic. I think you could argue basically against these lows, and sure enough, doink, right into that level. So really, really good lesson for everybody. Maybe even make like a note. I remember there was one gentleman who used to watch these videos, and he quite literally wrote an entire textbook on how to trade based off of fun little tidbits he picked up from the Beamish watching these videos. And frankly speaking, you should, if you really do fancy yourself a trader, if you really do fancy yourself, I want to get better at this, right? You should all have your journals out, and you should be writing notes feverishly, especially when I go into these kind of little explanations. And you should be taking screenshots, and then in the coming weeks, just have this aside and just watch, let your subconscious go, oh, okay, I think I get what the hell he's saying. Look at that, it actually happened there too. And that's where you really benefit from all this. And I've said since day one that my whole point of this is to try and help and make a positive difference in this world. I don't know whether I do or not, but in my crazy convoluted probably not the right word, but crazy, yes. Way, it's how I justify my existence in this world. Hopefully, hope, fingers crossed, making a positive difference in somebody's life. Anyway, so a lot of technical damage done. Interestingly enough, I had put notes out on social media and stuff, just saying, this whole move up here recently was very, very suspicious. And I will say, there were other TRI principles that actually took advantage of that rally and made very, very good money on it. And I would imagine TRI people as well. So congrats on taking advantage of that rally. But in the face of that, I don't think anybody should have been surprised. And I had sort of put out sort of follow-ups that, yeah, we kind of knew there was a problem. Something was going to develop here. The question is what? I'd also say too that I think we had a pretty good reading out of the crypto breadth that, if you're a bull, you better slow down, cool your jets, just let the dust settle. And also too, out of the stock market and also out of the country fund. So like all of the the world's risk assets were like, you better be careful, you better be careful, you better be careful. And what a surprise, the whole fucking market shits the bed. Not really. The irony of it all, and I tell people this repeatedly, is our job as market participants isn't necessarily to predict the future, but it's to see the data and see the market for what it is. You know, a lot of people are, when I was a broker, one of the hardest things possible was to actually get somebody to take profits on a stock idea that they had. Why? Because it technically means that the dream is over, right? Once you crystallize the sale, then you have to start worrying about, oh, well, there's going to be a big tax bill owing, and no, there's no more money to be made, so I guess I'll just go bury my head under the mattress or whatever, and wake me up when the market's a buy again. So a lot of people just they do not like to sell. It is one of the hardest things possible. And if anything, what I try to teach people is remove that discretionary decision process around selling. Just get it out of your vocabulary. Um, and one of the easiest ways to do that is this principle about, banging out doubles. Woo, look at me making money. But I only do this because it does speak to a certain degree my personality. I thrive in structure. So the more structured I have my business, the less my opinion gets injected into the equation. One thing I have noticed that I do like doing is in bull markets, I'll let markets breathe. So I don't necessarily work a ton of open orders congruently. And I'll just sort of keep a mental note of where double levels are. And then when we start to get signs of exhaustion, and I clearly think the market's showing signs of exhaustion now, then I'll just start feeding the market. And that's basically what I've been doing here. And actually, it's funny on the little Substack thing here, I'm trying to keep track of it. I put out a note, I don't know, maybe about 4 or 5 months. Well, no, I guess 4 or 5 weeks ago, on, this is a pretty good time to make some money in the market and, enjoy the seasonally appropriate rally and, bullish backdrop that we had. And then every time I sort of had a winning trade, I just posted case in point. But it's gotten so crazy now. And literally, I spent the entire day yesterday going through all my retirement account because I loaded the boat up in crypto, through the get your shit together part of the cycle. That Yeah, I've done very, very well here through this rally. But now my job here is I got to ring the freaking register. And these were just some of the register rings here that I had to do just over this past week. And yesterday, I think I had to put in another half a dozen sell orders. So when the market opens up, Canadian market's closed tomorrow, but U.S. markets should be open. I don't know whether the bond market's open or not, but it might be closed. Any of you Americans know? I think the bond market closes for Columbus Day. But anyway, and then of course with Taco, who knows what the hell's open down in the States? Poor people that are like, I'm gonna go work for this civil service. That's a great career choice. Not. Oh God, this guy. Anyway, so a lot of doubles being booked. And I think this Galaxy actually is probably a really good example of it. And I think I included it in the newsletter here today. where I just gave myself permission to get rich. Right? And that's the irony of this silly game, is that it's nobody's else's decision when to end the dream. It's your decision. In this particular case, as I said, through crypto winter, get your shit together, all that. I went into the stock market more than I went into crypto. In fact, me personally, I'm not, I, I am too stupid to be able to actually outsmart these crypto thieves. And what you just saw there on Binance is a perfect example of that. And unfortunately, what I see happen here, cycle in, cycle out, is that people that really don't understand how nefarious this crypto space really is get lulled into false sense of security. This is now the new age of money, and nobody would be criminal in this space. We're all out to get the man collectively, blah blah blah. And you find out that turns out these humans are just exactly the same as they always were. So, full disclosure, I've done most of my participation this cycle through the stock market. Um, did I did like Mike Novogratz. I think he's got a relatively good head on his shoulders, and also too, how does it go? Uh, Tony, no, actually, you don't hear about Tony Vase anymore. I get Tony Vase says we go down to 1K, but Mr. Novogratz says we have bottom end out. Bottom end out. Anyway, those are the days, eh? And anybody listening to that going, what the fuck is this guy going on about? You missed. That was the time to be in crypto, I think. Anyway, rang the register pretty hard on Mr. Novogratz on Friday. Still got a whack of him on the books, so certainly don't need to be selling anymore. Ironically enough, you know what this chart reminds me a lot of is Luna, which is so ironic because he was so closely tied to it. But on Luna, I did almost the same thing. I bought a whack of it down at the bottom, sold a whack of it at a huge gain, way more than doubles. This was 5x on my money, and this is 10x on my money. So I think I did okay this cycle. To all the people who are like, "Well, sell half on a double. Well, you can't get rich doing that." All right, well, do something like this: 5x and then another 5x, and just keep shilling. And then if this thing 5x's again, I guess it'd be another double off of that. Then that'll be 20x off of the lows, right? Anyway, so my post was let a whack of him go here at $60, which was 10x off of the lows, and I'll sell some more up at 120. And the joke about that is that I did exactly the same trade on Luna. I sold a whack of it at I think about 32 or something, then sold another whack at like 64. So thereabouts, and I had the order working to sell at 120 on Luna, and it topped out at like 119.50 or something like that. It's like, yeah, god damn sons of bitches. But that's the irony of it all, is that I didn't get hurt on Luna. In fact, I made a really pretty penny on Luna. So I ain't got nothing to complain about. I just missed my next double by like 50 cents. Anyway, I don't know what the hell's going to happen to Mr. Novogratz going forward, but 10x on your money, Brian, come on. Maybe it's time to let some go. So this is kind of what I've been doing over the past week or so, is just kissing goodbye a lot of this stuff that I bought off the lows. It doesn't necessarily mean that I think that this is the end of the bull, but I don't need to be a hero here. I'm just running my small business of expecting to make a profit from trading. That's kind of the feeling that I have right now with regard to this entire crypto space. And don't be shocked. Like I said, I got probably at least another half a dozen, if not more, orders all queued up where Price is actually much further than my double level. So I threw the order in at double levels and I should get fills much, much higher. That's just the way the stock market works. So I'm a pretty happy camper. I did everything correctly. And unfortunately, in this environment now, which is very difficult, is I have to now let this stuff go. Don't have to sell it all, but definitely have to be paying myself for my efforts. And that's kind of the attitude that I have about the market right now. Is I'm certainly not calling tops because in this highly, highly, highly manipulated environment, um, I wouldn't be surprised if we see much further upside and downside before we actually look back in hindsight and go, that was the top. Anyway, so there's my sort of overview of this market right now. Did see a bit of a break in the stock market. And frankly speaking, as I, kind of alluded to there at the beginning of all this, is I think there were plenty of warnings in the stock market that trouble was brewing. Of course, we've had this study floating out here the entire year. I'm kind of impressed at how accurate this January barometer has actually been. And when we got into October there, I was just like, oh, Jesus, we're living on borrowed time. Something's going to happen here. Somebody's going to say something. Somebody's going to poop the bed, whatever. And we're going to get punched in the nose. How deep this nose punch goes here, I don't think it's in any of our best interest to try and make those kind of predictions. You just, you roll with the punches. You just got to take it for whatever it's worth. But us coming into this peak, and if we looked at the broader stock market, this just happens to be the spiders off the daily charts. There was plenty of warning here. I built this indicator a million years ago, and its number one job was just to prevent me from doing stupid things in the marketplace, i.e., buying when the market's overbought, or heaven forbid, and actually, when was the last time we saw the stock market actually oversold? I guess way over here. Selling markets when they're oversold. And this market's been actually pretty darn overbought for quite a while. So just from a pure momentum perspective, anybody looking at this, and of course, the public just doesn't understand. And that's fine. The public will do what the public does. And anybody who fancies themselves some sort of market timer should look at that image and go, "Oh boy, that's looking kind of dangerous." And at any given point in time, we should expect crazy things like 38.2 retracements. So if this is the top, and I don't know whether it is or not, you can see where 38.2 is. We still got a long way to go here just to get back to respectability. This was actually a fairly minor break. And I do find it fascinating, of course, that it was initiated by, Donald and his stupidity. But it almost feels like my hunch is a lot of Wall Street people kind of said, "Look, we need the market to break. The market's got to break. Something's got to break this. All right, call up the stupid orange to pay, and let's get him to say something." And he simply looks at them and says, "All right, you got your checkbook out? Good. All right. No. Add another zero onto the end of that number, please, and we have a deal." Oh, I hate Winnie the Pooh. Down we go. That's how nasty I think this capitalist world is that we're living in here. Is you better understand that Paul, and I mean, God, who can finish this line? I mean, the irony of it all is the more things change, the more they stay exactly the same. All right, here comes the snarky line du jour. I don't know what screen this is on. Is it over here? Oh, yeah, it is over here. Let's see if who can finish this line. I'm sorry. How can we tell when a politician is lying to us? The more things change, the more they stay exactly the same. So sad. Hey, there we go. Thank you, Floris. Man, you see, Floris, you're from Netherlands there. Have you seen your Dutch leader guy? Man, he looks like a walking skeleton. That was actually, I was shocked when I saw him the other day. I gotta blow my schnoz. I'll be right back. All right, Bond. Alexa has helped. Bonds are closed tomorrow, eh? So there you go. Man, my bond market, holy crap, does that ever look beautiful? You know, one guy who's feeling pretty good about life right now has got to be Hugh Hendry, eh? These bonds just look so beautiful. Look at that chart. Ay, caramba. So now I was hoping that we would get a nice thump in here back to the trend line so I could add to this trade. But now this damn thing's painting a bullish bot. Oh my goodness. So, and of course, Taco here single-handedly trying to destroy the economy as much as he can. And I think he would more than happily sacrifice the world economy. I don't think he gives a shit about the world economy. If you are part of the world economy, you better watch out. Life's going to get pretty challenging, which is what scares the hell out of me for a country like mine, because we're basically just living off of the fat of the U.S. system. All these crazy ass trade deals that the Chinese had over the years. Mr. Trump's trying to slowly unwind all of them. It's interesting. The U.S. Midwest, Northeast, quite a few dairy farmers would absolutely love to sell their dairy products into Southern Ontario and the Maritimes, but legally they're just not allowed to. But I thought we had a North American free trade agreement. Nope, sorry, not when it comes to dairy. And actually, the irony of it all is one of the guys that I first got involved in the crypto space with, he was in the dairy industry, and his family was. And actually, he took all his crypto winnings and went and bought a dairy farm. And I think he's back living on in the barn. Gave up on crypto, or he's mind you, he was part of um, what was that guy's name? What was the guy who was thrown in jail forever and they threw away the key, and then he got out for being part of the dark web. And I think that's part of what Mr. Stirk was involved in all that. They're probably living on some island off in the middle of nowhere, Dr. Evil and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so Mr. Hendry, he's got to be feeling pretty damn good about the bonds here. But I get the impression that the world economy is not going to be doing too good here over the next while. It's going to be a pretty tough slog. Another great example. Actually, my show producer, Ross Ulbricht. That's right. Yeah. And what a political world, eh? Jeez. Anyway, where do you think that guy is? I remember Stirk. He was kind of one of Ross's minions. So he was always bitching and complaining about Ross when people forgot about him. Anyway, blah blah blah. So blah, 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 blah. We don't need to talk anymore about all this stuff. It's kind of a waste of time. I'm feeling pretty bullish about the bonds and the bond market, and that unfortunately means the economy is kind of on this fritz. But at the same time, too, as soon as the public actually turns a bit sanguine, I actually think they'll put a floor in all this stuff, and then they'll work the market right up into the end of the year, right back up to the old highs here. I think that we're basically now in a trading range. And I think those recent peaks that we saw in the stocks, we might revisit them here before the end of the year. But I think on balance, you might even call this sort of like a high watermark for the year. That wouldn't surprise me if it turns out to be that way. Yeah, we'll see. I think I pulled one out of my butt there on the Baba. Let the final position that I went here. And I do find it amusing how Taco here, like on Intel, is all excited because he got a 50% gain. Right now, I'm sitting on about 500. Yeah, somewhere in there, about 500% gain on the remaining position that I have on Intel. So take that, Taco. But booked 380, 390% gain on this Alibaba trade when the buy and hold strategy was only up about 150. And now buy and hold, I don't know whether you've even doubled your money off of these lows now. So that price obviously came off dramatically. Another perfectly good screenshot for you all to take and learn from Mr. Gann's 50% rule. So when I saw Baba hit the 50% rule, and this was my technical objective for this entire trade, when I saw that event happen, I was like, I don't give a shit. These cocksuckers are not going to give me a fill here at 20 bucks, which was the maximum profit on this trade. So I just CFO'd it to 19, took the money and ran. And now the bids are coming off dramatically for those options. But really, really good lesson for everybody in the power of the 50% rule. No idea what the hell happens here. All I told people on Friday on the TRI site is it almost felt like when you, there's a Friends episode, one of the first ones where Joey goes and this chick, he wants to score with this chick. So Chandler's there with the funny girl that he hooks up with. And Joey just gives her his credit card and they go on a drinking spree. But anyway, when the girls get to the restaurant, Joey and Chandler are like, "Oh, hey," and she goes, "I have to go to the bathroom and wash this taxi stench off my hands." I don't know whether you remember that line or not. But being long Alibaba just felt like I had my hands were covered in shit and I was just desperate to wash the shit off of my hands. So I am more than happy to say I am completely out of this trade, made a killing off of it. 387% return. That's the way you trade like a boss. But I am so happy to be out of this garbage. Thank God. I dislike anything to do with totalitarian dictatorships. And this trade was almost like a tug on my soul to be in it. And now that I've done exactly what I said I was going to do, because I would argue that you're only as good of a trader as you are by doing exactly what you said you're going to do. And if you can't do that, then you've got no business fancying yourself as a trader. I did it. I'm done. I've made my money. Now, thank God I'm out of this crap because, frankly speaking, I was actually a little embarrassed of myself for being in this. But I took their money. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. I think I'll even maybe light my cigars with Winnie the Pooh crisp $100 bills and just burn the profits in his effigy. There's an image for you, eh? Oh, well. Actually, starting the semiconductors here, starting to show some serious signs of problems. And semiconductors are the ultimate leading indicator for the economy. And the semiconductor part manufacturer is actually the ultimate leading indicator for the ultimate leading indicators. And we're doing some technical damage here. There's no doubt about that. Whether it be things like Broadcom, I was actually surprised to see some of the smaller semiconductor names that have been doing very, very well, completely outright topping. As I said there a second ago, the parts manufacturers, AMAT itself, that's a nasty looking top. So interesting too how these tops are actually coming in at very technically appropriate levels. So you can't even say that this is coming out of nowhere. I mean, look at that, right against Brian's favorite fib there, right in the reload short zone. So this thing's actually doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And I also found it interesting that ASML stock was doing very, very nicely and then ran right into a price gap here against the old highs. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, completely out of nowhere, ASML, they're in cahoots with the Chinese. Fuck them, let's go kill them. And boom, down goes the stock. It's kind of bizarre, but anyway, this is the very suspect. I don't know whether this is, I've gotten to the point where I see levels in my sleep and I see where things should break down. And then you mysteriously hear politicians say stupid things or, accusations of collaboration and with unsavory parties happen at very specific times and levels in the market. Maybe I'm getting too old for this game, but it just feels like this is really, really cliche what these bastards are doing, like, and smacks of market manipulation. All right, we're up against the top end of the range. The technical objective's been hit. Let's knock this thing back down. We're done. Probably wrote a ton of calls against these highs. Thou shalt not go up through these highs. All right, call up the orange taco there and get him to say something stupid. Bang, 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 bang. Down we go. How big did that check have to be written? Blah, blah, blah. You've heard Brian say it 100 times. So, excuse me, starting to see some signs of trouble. I suppose the actual index itself, what a surprise. Are we supposed to be buying up here? No. Do we actually start seeing confirmed bearish divergences? Yes. Well, where should those divergences resolve themselves? Probably right back to 38.2s. What a surprise. It's like this stuff writes itself. It's quite remarkable, really. So, anybody looking at that image, right? As a student of mine, or been watching these videos, you should expect that the Beamish is going to be like, you better be careful up here. This has got trouble written all over it. Now the trouble's finally happening. So I actually don't think that the break that we saw there in crypto was unrelated. And actually, I think the venture cap sort of proxies, I think, really tell the same story that you're seeing in sort of the crypto broader market. I do believe that we hit a very significant technical objective here recently. I'd also argue, too, that actually we have fairly well-defined market structure. And then finally throw it in. Did we actually have signs that there were problems here in the venture market? Was Willie stupid? Are we getting multiple M's in things like RSI? Yes, 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 and yes. So I don't think, again, anybody who is a student of mine, you shouldn't have been surprised whatsoever to see the break actually come. There were also like internals that were kind of screaming trouble, especially on coming into Friday, the transports versus the industrials. This is Dow theory. Transports were seemingly confirming that we were heading higher. And then all of a sudden the transports just went, whoop, 180, I'm out of here. See you later. And actually confirmed a double top breakdown Thursday, not Friday, Thursday. So you could argue coming into Friday's session, there is the Dow there. With this double top in place on the transports on Thursday, there was going to be trouble. And sure enough, kaboosh, transports got really smashed hard here. Just the simple fact that I am bond bullish, that probably is not a vote of confidence for the stock market. Also, too, one of our longtime site members was recently in our stock pickers club meeting, repeatedly saying things like, shouldn't we be maybe thinking about bull call spreads on things like the VIX? Doesn't this look like this is trying to double you out? And isn't that what we as technicians are looking for? And he was absolutely right. Spot on. Uh, I have no concerns about this gentleman going forward in life. He understands how markets work. So hats off to you. You know who you are. Don't need to name names. I wouldn't necessarily say that that is some sort of that's it, that's the bottom, but at the same time, too, they got the public nice and fearful here. We might even find that we gap open lower Monday morning, but it's a trap. And then they spend the rest of the week working the market back up. Keep in mind, this is the big monthly options expiry coming up here this Friday. And quarterly options are actually a big one. It's October though, so it's not a September quarterly. But it might be interesting to see just what's the backdrop that they have to work with heading into this coming Friday. That will be 17th. So actually it's this coming Friday. So where are their weak points? Oh, hello. Isn't that interesting? So I often tell people you can get an idea of where this sort of floor of the market is, the anchor of the market, where the heaviest open interest on the puts are, and you can actually see 650 here. Yeah, it's a pretty damn big open interest. Look at also too, there's this guy way up here at 670. So I think that your 650 level is the anchor for the market. I'd be surprised if this time next week we actually saw the market down here. And I wouldn't be surprised, believe it or not, I wouldn't be surprised if they engineer some sort of monster rally here to try and make sure as many of these puts expire as worthless, out of the money. Anyway, we will see how that goes. Beg your pardon, actually. This is the heaviest open interest. That's the volume. So I screwed that up. Sorry, everybody. So I still think that that's your floor for the market, but I wouldn't be surprised if they try and get it back above this 660 here. Yeah, which would mean 5-10% rally. Well, I guess a little bit more than 10%. Into next Friday, wouldn't be shocking. But at the same time, too, I wouldn't be surprised if this 650 level holds here as a floor. We'll see. Only time will tell. So, thinking back to that January barometer, it basically said that there was going to be some sort of violent break. I don't know how deep this goes here. I find it hard to believe that this is the extent of the selling. But just let's not get married with the idea that the market's actually going, parabolic down. I actually think that whatever selling sort of capitulation event window here is, it's actually going to mark a floor, and then we're going to actually spend the next probably couple months here grinding our way back up top. And I actually expect the same thing in crypto, believe it or not. So anyway, food for thought for you. And I suppose turning our attention to crypto in particular. So bigger picture, just keep this in mind. Doesn't necessarily have to play out exactly on cue, but I don't think it's in our best interest to really fight this thinking. Just understand there is some sort of cycle top in the money cycle here. It's very close. And as I had said there a few minutes ago, I actually was a bit surprised by Mr. Hayes' commentary about how liquidity is being injected in the system. In that, if you look under the hood, I don't think it is. I actually think liquidity's getting a little bit thin, and if anything, that's half the reason why these things are breaking here. And if anything, Friday's price action in the altcoin market, I think was actually a really, really good analogy of lack of liquidity. There were no buy orders. Now, I think there was something very specific with regard to Binance that was going on there. But when they started pulling the floor out from underneath these altcoin names, there was just no market underneath the market at all. Like there was no liquidity. So, this is actually a symbol that Julian, one of the principals at TRI, introduced to the community. I don't know, about a year or so ago. I've just been watching how it's developed. But what was interesting about this is, I don't know whether I can do this or not, but let's see what happens. BTC. What'll happen here? Survey says, I think it does it on the one above. Oh, yeah, that's here. Yeah. So if we overlay these two, this is a bit shocking. This is what I don't understand by Mr. Hayes. I'm a bit surprised that he made that statement. So you can clearly see the yellow is that liquidity. And this is the Federal Reserve balance minus the repo market and Treasury. And you can clearly see last time we made this kind of structural top up here, when you can see what Bitcoin had to do following. And it didn't really bottom until this thing started to W out and start working its way higher. Then this thing started to top out. Bitcoin kind of paused, and we W'd, and Bitcoin said, hey, rock and roll. So there's the liquidity image there, folks. It's staring us in the face. This is what I don't understand about what Mr. Hayes is going on about here, because that clearly is not the bullish image that I would expect to see to start a bull run here. I mean, we want to see W's and notice up goes price. Even here, M's and down, and Bitcoin at best just went sideways here. So where are the W's? I don't see any W's here. So something's not right with this image. So just the point I guess I would just say is I don't think that the logic of this Bitcoin halving cycle is actually isolated to the Bitcoin story. I believe Colonel Mustard did it in the drawing room with the candlestick, and he had help from the NSA. He had help, the George Bush Jr. through that whole war of terror bullshit. He actually got the U.S. citizens to agree to the CIA had $45 billion a year budget, and I'm sure that was pegged to inflation, so it's probably way higher now, that had absolutely no oversight and no reporting responsibilities to the U.S. government, i.e. Congress. So there are literally the size of full-on agencies floating around there in the background of the U.S. Government. And they're probably even listening to this call that none of us are even the slightest bit of aware about. And I personally believe, for whatever it's worth, that Bitcoin was created by those people. And I got to say, man, the public, including this generation, millennials and stuff, they have bought this story hook, line, and sinker. It doesn't necessarily mean that price goes up, price goes down. What I think, for whatever it's worth, is that they have created this commodity. And I wouldn't be surprised, tinfoil hats, the whole damn thing, that actually there's probably even off-planet influences on this. Because now, in essence, this asset is tied to the money cycle forever, or as long as it exists, another 100 years or so. And it follows that money cycle very, very efficiently, which is really just a function of the business cycle. And value in this space, I believe, is really only when you actually start hearing people are starting to turn their machines off because the price of Bitcoin is so low they can't afford to pay the bills to keep the machines going. And that space continually dwindles down, dwindles down, dwindles down until we get to the point where we actually start hearing conversations about 51% attacks, i.e., the space is so limited, only the players of economies of scale are participating, and the sort of fundamental story now actually starts coming into question, i.e., can any one individual actually go in and start manipulating the blockchain and the ledger? And that's, frankly speaking, I think how this story works. It's really straightforward. It's no different than any other commodity asset. If people like eating corn, but there's so much corn in the world that the price of corn in the open market collapses, there are going to be a lot of marginal players that grow corn that will simply be put out of business. And then if so many people are put out of business that there's only a few players, they can start talking about how they're having razor thin profit margins and they need to do whatever they can possibly do to get those prices of corn back up. It's the same logic. And you can talk about the mining industry. You can talk about any commodity, pig farming. It's all the same logic. So, do you think that there is value in this commodity, in this resource, in this idea that we have an immutable blockchain that is beyond the control of governments to dilute and censor? I think that there is a hell of a lot of value in that in this fucked up world. And I also think to a certain degree that probably people off planet said there's no fucking way we're going to come and actually buy your silly billy fiat currency nonsense. It's garbage. It's worthless. If I'm going to actually invest, I want to have something that actually has some sort of tangible value. And now I think over the next 100 years or so, you could very easily see these cryptocurrencies just become part of our ethos. It is the internet's money. Makes sense to me. I don't see any logic fighting that. What I would say, though, is you have to be damn careful in this space about what actually value is. How do you actually define value? And I hate to say it, especially, I thought this was a really, really good experiment where just for fun, I went on this pump.fun site and just created a coin out of thin air. And I told all these people that were participating in this fun thing, I said, this thing's worthless. There is no value to this, but somebody was buying and selling all this crap up here. Even though through this whole damn experience, I told them, this thing has no value to it. I don't know why you're buying it. But it was just fascinating to watch. This is almost like, and especially the back and forth price action, because somebody clearly stepped in and was propping this thing up. So even while I'm sitting here telling people, hey, there's no value to this, you see algorithms and stuff were still trading this stuff because they saw, hey, look, that W and RSI, that's a bullish sign, isn't it? Let's go buy some of this. Woo, nice rally. But, it's fascinating to watch the humans do their things, even though there technically is no value whatsoever to this asset at all. And it's an interesting anecdote on how this free market capitalist system works. So anyway, just a fun anecdote. And I would tell anybody who came up to me and said, okay, well, what's the intrinsic value of one of these things? I'd say, I don't know. What's the intrinsic value of Solana? and Solana's sticking around here, right? I mean, that's about the only value to this thing. Anyway, kind of a fun side story. I do have some plans to use this thing over time, but I actually don't anticipate even thinking about any of that until we get well into crypto winter and the public is completely not interested in this space whatsoever. And this thing might even be close to zero by that point. So for God's sakes, don't go and buy any of this. It's just a fun experiment on my part. Um, I guess just the reason why I mentioned all that, there are a lot of people that actually seriously invest in these cryptocurrencies. And I think you have to be very, very careful. And Friday's illustration was, unfortunately, a very good illustration in that I don't think there's actually any intrinsic value to a lot of this stuff. And when push comes to shove and people need to sell, oh boy, are you going to see some fireworks. And unfortunately, I think to a certain degree, that's exactly what happened on Friday. I was shocked because people that I respect in this space were telling me about stories like this little one, um, where they're actually they're building stuff that I don't know how you describe it. The fundamental building blocks of the future. But this is this crazy crypto space where you can, hey, that Beamish guy says W's are bullish. And look at that. That's a W within a W. That looks pretty good. That's good quality blue chip investing. And look at me. I'm so smart. And all right, rock and roll. And all right, maybe I'll let a little go. And then, all right, maybe we'll trade it back and forth. I don't know. But this is a good quality. And I think there's value. And then all of a sudden, boom. And I mean, like, this is insane. That's what this move is on a logarithmic scale. They took this thing all the way down to, what the hell is that low? I mean, this is insane. 17 cents. So please understand, at the end of the day, there could technically be no value to any of this stuff. I think it's very, very dangerous to come into this crypto space, especially this part of the cycle, right near the end, and start doing things like leverage trading. Because like this could like literally destroy, years and lifetimes of work. That's how dangerous this space is, folks. Please understand that. I mean, I don't know whether I'm scaring you or not, but I said this 2 or 3 broadcasts ago. This is going to be a very, very difficult few months window here where you could have price all over the map. But the question here is there actually any value to any of this, or is this just the machinations of the end of venture cap moves in the market? And the market's designed to take away as much money from as many people as much of the time as possible. Full disclosure, am I buying anything crypto related in the market right now? No, just not. And frankly speaking, I'm too busy trading futures contracts and actually selling all of this crypto stock I bought, that I'm not even entertaining the idea of buying anything right now. Yeah, I guess the question ultimately for me is, do we see some sort of crypto rally here through this rally exit window here? You got to feel, I don't know whether you feel bad or not, but I mean, these guys, they come out and they publicly say to their communities, oh my God, you got to buy, you're going to get rich. I mean, are they really going to be sort of made to look that stupid over time? I can't believe how this guy is. I think he even came in here a few times and said to his audience, buy, buy, buy here. I mean, we all see the smiles on the face of the market here. We probably should cool our enthusiasm until we start at least seeing some W's coming in here. But I find it hard to believe that the Trumps will look as foolish as they're looking right now at the end of whatever this move is. And then also too, like what I saw there out of Taco, I wonder whether a lot of this that we're seeing going on here right now is some sort of, conspiracy, which is sad. I mean, you look at Taco's World Liberty Financial, my goodness, what a train wreck this has been. So some poor Trump followers, they all, of course, came in on the buy side here in the 20s, and look how low they took this thing down to 16, 13 cents. Ouch, boosh. And Trump himself, wow, holy carnage, Batman. If anything, this is a really interesting analogy. I remember last week I was sitting here scratching my head going, usually harmonics like to get traded to. So why on earth did they stop it there? Well, maybe did they know something? I don't know. Ugh. This altcoin space looks pretty ugly, folks. No doubt about it. It's tough to sugarcoat this. God, I don't even know where to start with all these. Most of these things have technically broken down. Good part about it, of course, is I bought a while ago. I suppose if you had stink bids working at absolutely insane low levels, way to go on you. I didn't, like I said, I'm not buying anything more, but man, that's awfully tough to expect to see price appreciate here. Ada actually was one that I did have a stink bid working, but I killed it a while ago. But I guess hindsight being 2020, I guess I should have kept it working, eh? our ironically enough, this is where I was selling. So all they did after that insane dump was just bring the market right back to where I was selling before. So, interestingly enough, there were a couple names here that actually were rallying. I was quite surprised. I think I got a double off on one of these things the other day. Which one was it? I think it was like a buck, $2, something like that. Well, it's not that guy. I can't remember which one. Actually, I suppose we have it on the Twitter feed here. Wherever the heck that is. Which one was it? Gold stocks. Actually, I guess I'm asset agnostic. Gold stocks, crypto stocks, online interneting stocks, shit coins themselves. I don't really care if the damn thing doubles, out goes half. There's another crypto stock I got a nice win off. Where is it? Oh, it's in here somewhere. There's Novogratz. There's my idiot political leader. There's another mining stock. Did very, very well on. Baba. Get that taint off your fingers. BIT. There it was. So, ironically enough, they always say there's always a bull somewhere. So, go figure. Why is that guy bucking the overall trend? I think it's like real world assets. If anything, probably a really good analogy. This is why you should have a nice diversified portfolio. So you're not like too concentrated in one or two particular sectors. But I did notice, and I think I started off the conversation, I had this on the screen. Look at Dash. I mean, bear market? What bear market? I don't see any bear market. So there are names, I just didn't happen to rebuy this one, but there are names that are moving up. I did bang out, like I said, that little BIT. That was a nice treat. Um, but I will say, I suppose probably, like I said there, Ethereum, probably the sort of broader crypto space, going to need him to firm up here a little bit. And then also Solana. Solana's done quite a bit of technical damage here recently. And unfortunately, this image is actually starting to look like it's done. So what are we supposed to think if we ever see the market smiling at us? Oh boy, there's a big ass smile. Also, too, not really shocking. Where are we here? 38.2s and 50%, bottom end of the range. So all I did was back the market up into 38.2s. The problem here, of course, though, like I said a second ago, is this damn thing smiling at us now. So the only way we can turn bullish again, I suppose, kind of like what you see here is, put in a smile. How the hell do you end that? All right, well, put in some sort of W. The only way that we're going to get this thing looking like a bull again is, can I please see some W's in here? Ain't got nothing there to work with yet. I guess what ideally we'd love to see is we come back down against those candle body lows, put in another tight little W, and we'd have like a nice Adam and Eve setup. That would be great. But that's just a V bottom right now. So this market's going to take some time to clean itself up, folks. I definitely think that. As I had said there earlier, the total crypto market, interesting. Last video I did with before this dump with the community was I was talking about how we had a diamond top up there. And we actually confirmed the diamond top there on the 9th, Thursday. So you can't even really make the argument there wasn't any sort of warning from the market that we were about to dump. And dump we did. The interesting thing about this too, though, is if we do like reload zones, look where the dump ended. I don't know how the heck they did this on this crypto total market cap that it could be that cliche. I mean, seriously? I find that fascinating. And then just V bottom straight back up. I don't know whether you can actually trade this thing or not, or whether this is just, there's probably one or two major of the coins that did this that caused it to look like that. But isn't that incredible? The market literally dumped into exactly where you're supposed to buy. And then the damn thing just takes off. Go figure. So certainly not a buy setup for a guy like me. If anything, I think this speaks to this kind of conversation that the market took, a bit of a punch in the nose there, bajoosh. But basically, we've set up a trading range here now. And look, Adam, you can even say 13 EMA acting as support. It did its job. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. Absorbed all that selling, and then here we are. They might even close the market back above that 13 EMA like nothing happened here. So, yeah, business as usual. Don't really have a sell signal here. Just, I think the bottom line is just we have to respect where we are. This market's starting to look kind of tired. And now the stock market's kind of looking a bit tired. And unfortunately, that's about the best way I can sugarcoat this. I would love to sit here and say, oh yeah, we're going all the way up here, but this is looking further and further away now, sadly. And if we actually look, what kind of was the tip off that maybe this might be problematic is if we look at the momentum of this market, there was problems here for quite some time. Again, remember I started off this conversation today, I said, there are a bunch of things that are just not right with this market. We're coming into very normal peaking windows, and momentum looks like absolute horseshit here. So you can't make the argument this is like a strong, very powerful bull. It is not. And I don't think you can make the argument that liquidity is really helpful for the market, because I don't think it is. I'm not quite sure where Arthur is going off on that. And then, the final thing of all this is, if the Fed is cutting interest rates and the bond market is agreeing that, yep, we got to start tempering growth expectations, then that's not usually a good sign for the broader economy. That's a bad sign. So bonds super happy, stocks super unhappy. That's kind of where the way this is supposed to go, especially given this particular part of the cycle. Also, too, and I think this is a rude awakening for these commodity countries. I think crude oil is in big trouble here. And 1986, actually, crude oil prices broke in earnest and it shocked the world. I remember living through that. And even recently, I was kind of like, okay, well, maybe we're going to bottom here. And this market just can't buy a friend. And now that theoretically the Israelis and Palestinians are all chummy again, you can't make the argument that there is a bullish case for oil because there is fighting in the Middle East. Um, I don't know. Look, kind of looks to me like we tagged 1.618. We've rejected now through that. And if that's the case, then that means we're going after these lows. You might find that the bottom just falls right out of this oil market. There's no reason for this thing to be as strong as it is. It's interesting too that based off of this entire chart pattern, I actually have a totally legit bot setup working, and its target is $39 a barrel for oil. And there's 4669s. This isn't totally an accurate trend line, but I wouldn't be surprised if we play along with it here. Something along those lines. So when's that? December of the coming year. And actually, I kind of like that too. This thing might just baboosh, right? And then find some sort of footing for us to, start 2026. But wow, that is a very bearish looking chart. And I also think too, I'm very bearish of my country. I'm short the Canadian stock market. I'm short some of these banks. I absolutely hate. They're oligarch cocksuckers. So if anything, it just deserts to see them start to fall apart here. But I wanted to be short the Canadian dollar. I don't actually have any shorts on right now, but most of my net worth is in US dollars, not Canadian dollars. I have enough operating capital to pay taxes and rent and bills and shit, but that's about it. And this, they often say commodity countries, their currencies lead the commodity. So this commodity is heavily, heavily oil dependent, and that chart looks like an absolute train wreck. So the good part about this, though, is this should actually help on the inflation front. So in a weird sort of way, I think that the bond market is sniffing this out as well, and that's one of the reasons why the bonds are happier as well. But you can think about this in just pure price goes up because demand is outstripping supply. Price goes down because demand is weak. I might make the argument that supply concerns with the end of the fighting there in Israel, Gaza, and all that, and how and there's no oil in Israel or Palestine, which is so funny about all this. But obviously, the behavior of the Israelis towards their neighbors greatly affects how the rest of the neighborhood feels. And I do get the impression that actually Trump even used the local Arab populations to broker the deal. So, like, it's either they're behind it or there is no deal. And I think that was the only leverage that Trump had to get Hamas to sort of, start smartening up. So happy, happy, joy, joy. And from what I understand, when I keep hearing talk out of OPEC, OPEC plus, all that kind of stuff, they're more than happy to increase production to try and offset the hyperinflation world. Even they're feeling it. So in a weird sort of way, they're happy to increase production and flood the market with all the oil the market wants. And of course, they want to steal market share. I'd also make the argument too that Vladdy is getting a little bit desperate. It was interesting, and I'm not quite sure how this is going to play into all this. But the Indians now are actually accepting payment for Russian oil in Chinese yuan. There's, you hear me say you can't write better fiction than reality. If like 30, 40 years ago, you'd say that the Indians, the Chinese, and the Russians were all going to be in cahoots together and working together and tying their economies together. I don't think anybody in the world would have believed you. Keep in mind, the Indians and the Chinese do not like each other historically. So this kind of weird detente that Bodhi has engineered with Z and Putin, very, very bizarre bedfellows. Anyway, we'll see how long that lasts. Do you find it interesting how, for some reason, the Afghanis are stepping it up against the Pakistanis here? And they're like literally on a full-on war. I don't know how Afghanistan can even conceive winning that kind of war, but maybe that was part of the deal, was that the Taliban's was going to have to kick the Pakistanis in the shins. Here, anyway, fascinating times we're living in. All right. Oh well, I was having fun ranting. I suppose we should probably wind up the rants. What I will say though is if you're looking for a curveball that the market is not expecting, not looking for, but I think could derail a lot of narratives, it is a collapse in oil prices. And I could very easily see that happen. Anyway, I'll leave that at that. Q&A document. Haven't really had too much you just saw him in Las Vegas. Who's that? Stirk or Albright? Or Albrecht? Where is the Q&A document? Q&A. I've got that around here somewhere. There we go. I was talking to M. Toshi the other day about some thoughts I was having about what is going on with BTC ASIC hashing, what is happening at the moment. Exhibit A, go search it yourself, get more info, but read this. Cubic performs 51% Monero network takeover. Uh-oh. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we start hearing more and more scandals. It's just been quite a while since we've been scandal ridden in this space. All right, where is Chris in his AMA document? Brian, you guaranteed the market was going to go up. Now I'm going to sue you. Yeah, wonderful. Brian, AMA. All right, let's see what we got here. Survey says, actually, I thought I opened this up. This is my stock market screen. Stock market, tastes great. Oosh, over here. AMA? No, no AMA. No, somewhere. I'll drag this over here. And what do we got here? Holy crap. This question? God. 13 signs of a bear market. Holy crap. All right. Massive leverage wipeout often precede hidden failures. Yeah, it's a sign of the times. You can imagine how many crypto kids got absolutely decimated there. So, uh, unfortunately, it's a great function of unregulated markets. And as we're in a bull market and everything's moving up, nobody says anything. Then as soon as somebody sneezes and the market comes off, All of a sudden, oh boy, all hell breaks loose. And it's so sad how quickly crypto kids can go from, hey, I'm a millionaire, fuck you, to, I gotta go back to McDonald's. 4-year cycle timing? Yeah, I think we're pretty darn close to that 138 time fib. Over 3 decade-long scale resistance line. Interesting. A power law upper band connection. Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. I think when I did one of these longer term charts recently and I zoomed out on it, what I noticed was sort of a rolling top. I don't know whether I had it on one of these charts or not. No, not here. But I did kind of notice that the adoption curve, if you will, is kind of flattening out, which means that I guess price appreciation is flattening out. Lower low below 107K after blow off. I do kind of like the idea that that was some sort of megaphone there, though. So that was this image. I think this had been brewing for quite a while. Just the question was, how is it going to play out? And you have a higher high here, and you have a lower low here. So by definition, actually, both ends should be tested. And the irony of it all is you only really know the top is in after the fact. But if we rally back up top and then put in a nice AM, well, then you'll know. And then if we put in this big honking AM, well, then you'll know. For now, what I see is a higher high. So at the very least, that high should be tested. Lower low. I don't know whether this megaphone line has actually been traded to yet or not, but I'm just, as I had said there on this chart, is I think right now we've just got ourselves a trading range. Top end of the range, bottom end of the range. Expect price to play on both sides of the extremes. That's about the only thing you can take away from this right now. And you might just find some white knight comes in here and bids this thing right up, and this turns into some fucking hammer. Then we trade up through the high here, and if that does turn into a hammer, then oh boy, get ready up top. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Altcoin open interest surpassing Bitcoins. Well, what I don't like about the altcoin space is this lack of value. As I told you with my little piece of shit here, nobody's got any business buying this thing. It's worthless. And yet people are buying. I don't know where the hell this damn volume comes in. Somebody even came in here recently and bought a whole shitload of my coins. I don't know why. Certainly wasn't touted by anyone. So yeah, I would agree with you, especially the way the Solana market it grew. We ideally would like to see price grow vertically, i.e., price goes higher. But in Solana's case, and same thing with Ethereum, is they've grown horizontally. So they've become absolutely insanely huge. And of course, the fees and revenues coming in from all these things are absolutely through the roof, but no vertical price growth. So I might argue that the entire crypto space is more than fully liquefied. I'm not quite. No, that's not the right word. Filled in. The bubble is full of shit coins that technically don't have any value at all. Zcash pump. I don't know whether you saw Dash, another one. So these anonymous coins are pumping right now. That's got to be a bit of a warning sign. At the same time, too, I would have said that this would have been the end had they actually broken Binance and you saw withdrawals were suspended and all that kind of stuff. But so far, it just looks like it's a hack and, it's business as usual. And, the proof of the pudding's definitely in the eating. If this stuff firms up and we start seeing W's in price again, we start actually coming back against these highs, and heaven forbid you actually see new highs, then it means that they absorbed the scandal. It's over. Um, so yeah, I mean, if anything, it was like a little bit overdue that we have these kind of shakeouts. I think that's a good word to use, shakeout. Yeah, well, keep in mind the public when they're fearful. Oh boy, are they ever fearful. I think probably the most important thing we want to look for here is market structure. I do appreciate these are all perfectly valid points, but let's see, M's are bearish, W's are bullish. Like I said, off that total market cap, that's a V top. And you can see V top's got to be tested. Whoop, tested, boom, gone. Okay, V top's got to be tested. Boom, tested, gone. V top's got to be tested, tested, boom, gone. V top's got to be tested, tested, boom, gone. V top's got to be tested. If this is not a bull anymore, then we go up, we make an M, we test that high, and we say, see you later. And there's your big M. But there's no M there yet. So I would say this was a warning shot. I would say this definitely liquidated a lot of newly minted crypto experts. They certainly wasn't expecting this. Am I coming in hard on the buy side here? No, you know where I think we are in the cycle. Could I see further price appreciation through this window here, which will give me the opportunity to keep selling into the marketplace? Yes. And will I be selling? You absolutely can guarantee I will be selling. And I really won't have any interest in buying back in earnest until probably the end of 26, but probably more importantly, the spring of 27. And at this point, I'll be talking about get your shit together and all that kind of talk. Institutional euphoria and overconfident ETH forecast. Yeah. Keep in mind, Tom has a very, very long time horizon. If we have to sit 6, 8, 12 months just backfilling, I don't think it's going to make any difference to Tom Lee whatsoever. Can he see the use case scenario of Ethereum and the blockchain in growing corporate profits going forward? Absolutely. And really, his stock actually is a really good sort of proxy. I would just simply say there's no way in hell I can touch his stock right here. No way. And use his stock as a proxy. So that is this one. And I can tell you exactly where I'm going to invest in Mr. Lee. I will invest right here. No way in hell I'm touching it up here. No way, Jose. So I don't know how many years is it going to take for us to work our way back down to fill this gap in? I don't know, but when it does, that's when I'll invest in Mr. Lee. Pretty straightforward. Are you kind of coming in late to the fact? Could this thing work its way a bit higher? Sure. But with that big old gap and considering where we are in the cycle, and what I'm thinking is I want to invest in this space again, probably somewhere over here. I'm not really in a big hurry to do anything. And this could take a very long time to play out. Not in a hurry at all. I agree with you. This space is getting awfully bullish, maybe a little too bullish. Kind of like the gold space right now, and I'm selling gold. And gold and mining stocks. Whale and long-term holder distribution, on-chain monitors recorded an 80,000 movement from ancient wallets. Yeah, could be. Again, all you're doing is you're just pointing out points that I would expect to be happening right around here. Not really shocking. And you're making a pretty good case for why I kind of think we're getting close to some sort of cycle top. I mean, just the fact that fucking Donnie and his family are bullish, that in itself, you should be going, whoa, careful. Um, yeah. I think I even posted in the newsletter here today. I was talking about how it was like, pretty damn big number. Yeah, I did hear that they were trying to break some of these blockchains. That doesn't surprise me. And unfortunately, there's probably a lot of money to be stolen. Yeah, the problem with this kind of thing though is because as long as the Fed is in this rate cutting kind of framework, um, I would expect that there's going to be some sort of shock to the system about the middle of next year. Um, so as long as we work through this current sort of window, I'm just going to simply say if we start seeing the unemployment numbers start to really ramp up in earnest, which I don't think we're going to see, but if you do, then I think the Fed will have plenty of cause to lower rates aggressively. With inflation around 3% and the Fed sitting around 4%, you could make an argument that basically real rates are about 1%. Um, and the economy is growing at about 1%. So interestingly enough, the interest rate ex inflation is about the same rate as the actual GDP growth ex inflation. Yeah, I mean, I've talked to you at length about what I see happening with regard to January barometers, the end of the year, expectations for 2026. I think you're just, honestly, I actually think you're a bit early. I think you're right, but I think you're a bit early. Strongest evidence points institutional afforance, fully collaborative public records, mid-tier points show success, better weaker points. Yeah, so what I would just simply say is, you're making all excellent points why this is not really the time for us to be uber bullish. I'm not necessarily going to call a top if prices do get to astronomical levels. It'd be interesting to see whether any of crypto Twitter actually holds Allen and his $400,000 BTC price forecast for November 2nd. Hold his feet to the fire. I doubt he will. So, with that kind of backdrop and given the absolute insanity of no lack of leadership, it feels as though the entire political system is actually stacked against the public. You can't trust this cocksucker. Anything that comes out of his mouth, he'll instantly contradict himself to try and manipulate price around. You can't really even trust anything in the market right now. If anything, what I would just simply say is just leave this market alone. Just leave it alone. You don't have to be in this market. If you're in, great. Well, if prices go crazy to the upside, great, pay yourself. If you're in from much lower levels, well, maybe seriously think about taking some money off the table. But nobody's holding a gun to your head. You don't have to be in this market. And frankly speaking, I think over the next 2 or 3 years, this is the most dangerous window for the public to be participating in these markets. That's the end of that conversation. It's just simple as that. This next. I think that they will push the market higher. I don't think it happens until the new year, but that's just my hunch. And then the second half of 26 right through 28, 29 should be an incredibly difficult time for us humans. Well, I hope you're all ready. And as far as I'm concerned, you've just made a case here that I can't argue with anything that you've said here. Why I just will not be buying anything unless markets like absolutely collapse And we start hearing the Fed talking about just taking rates down to nothing again to save the economy, blah, politicians saying things like, I will sacrifice my life to save capitalism. Then we can start getting bullish again. But for the time being, no, there's nothing for a guy like me to get bullish about here. So that's just a brutal honesty for you folks. I'm sorry. I do see people touting about names that have gone crazy. But like I'm like hearing people, oh my God, Dash, look at Dash, look at Dash. And that's great. If you are long from the bottom, fucking A, man. Enjoy the ride. I mean, we can all see bottom definitely looks like it was down here. Maybe he could even come in at $25, but that means by definition you should be selling up here, not buying. So I don't know how you could justify buying there. And I see people talking about the Z coin, same thing. If you're long from the bottom and you did your job as a trader, I buy W's, and really, hell, how far back do you have to go to find the actual lows? Looks like it was down in here somewhere, right? So, if you forced yourself to come in, Nanny Nibbles, little old ladies, bottom ends of ranges here, well, you're laughing. If you had said, well, I really want to see some solid structural bottoms, W's, all that kind of fun stuff. Sure looks like you got lots of W's coming in all over here. So that's long from what, like $30 or whatever. At $279, do I have any business whatsoever coming in on the buy side here? No. You missed the trade. It's over. So yeah, I can appreciate people are going, oh, Z, oh, look at it, so awesome. But there's no fucking way I could touch that. No way, Jose. Yeah, Mr. House said that Binance said that they were going to cover all the losses by their people. So if that's the case, I just brush it off and move on. Remember, V-tops like to be tested, so we'll see. And if, of course, we break to new high, show me new high, and I'll show you something or other. So, just another day in the market. Just try not to chase, right? You got no business coming in on the buy side on something that looks like that. And I might even suggest I won't be doing it because, like I said, I won't be buying any more crypto here. If these things do rally up top, great. I'll let them have some. But well, geez, can't even use that guy. Wow, what a beautiful selling window, eh? Holy moly. So that, if anything, this was you know what, the way I would look at something like this, you've all been given a warning shot. You've all been hopefully slapped in the face a little bit here. Oh, you mean there is a bit of risk involved in this space? Okay, well, all right, maybe I better go and review stuff. I'll review my plan. Where did I actually buy this stuff? What did I want to get out of it? Why am I in this thing? That, I think, if anything, was a very clear warning sign to everybody. And also, too, wicks and tails, something about that? So wicks and tails like to be eaten. I wouldn't be surprised at some point down the road that tail gets eaten. So yeah, there you go. TBG says this entire. I tell you though, dude, there's some great parts of the market. I mean, I don't mean to beat my own horn. Beat my own horn. I'm not quite sure how that goes. But man, if you've been in the right place in the market, this market's been a dream. So I guess it just really all depends on your perspective. I think also too, and this kind of the shitty part of this is that we're not really in this cycle that favors commodities. That was last cycle. That cycle actually ended in 2018. We're definitely in a stock growth proxy cycle. So I'm super excited for growth in the broader stock market. That's really where I'm focusing most of my attention. I actually feel as though the crypto market itself is, especially with this move towards DeFi now, is very, very vulnerable to what we saw there happen on Friday. At the end of the day, you might find that everything cleans itself up and it was a big hurry up and do nothing. But if you work stops or you have risk management rules, right? You're doing anything other than little old lady. This is where this illiquid, deregulated market could get yourself into a lot of hot water. And I just don't need those headaches in my life. It's hard enough making money on my own as it is. So, all right. So I can't disagree with this thesis here whatsoever. What I would just simply say is, you're making a fundamental argument that there's a lot of sort of writing on the walls that this is a challenging environment. And I would agree with that. What I would just simply say to actually mark the top, it's interesting how last time they didn't even really give it. It was just straight up and straight down. But I would expect to see some sort of structural signaling here. If it is just a straight up, straight down, fuck you, well, so be it. That's the way it goes. But just respect where we are on this cycle image. It just is what it is. And if you're watching the chalk marks very closely, I think we actually have a very well defined range here. Trade a close, let's say, above these highs, I think basically says this was all just a nothing event. A close below these lows says that the top is in. I don't think we're going to see either of those. I wouldn't be surprised if this week is an inside bar, beep, and then the resolution of the inside bar next week. So this is like literally 2 broadcasts from now. Will actually tell us which direction this thing wants to go. And oh, what a surprise. That will be on the other side of the cycle pivot event. So we'll see. The other thing I wanted to mention too, which I did find kind of interesting, was you notice that last eclipse cycle? Coming out of the eclipse cycle, the market head faked like we were heading lower because that was the trend heading into the cycle. Oh, what a surprise. They did the same thing, just going the other direction. So heading into the eclipse cycle, the market head faked like it was heading higher, but I think that was a trap. So, if anything, if coal's around, we should mark on our charts when the next eclipse cycle is. And my hunch is if this thing does actually break down and we paint inside bars, that just like you saw from here to here, we'll probably have a straight move from here to whatever the next eclipse cycle is. That wouldn't surprise me at all. All right, I think we're going to leave the rant at that. I started off by saying I knew that recently these broadcasts were going to be very difficult. This is not the easy part of the market. The easy money is over. This is a very difficult part of the market. If you are new to investing, I actually don't think you have any business whatsoever investing your hard-earned money in this market space. I think it's just got trouble written all over it. Great. So what the hell do I say to you people for the next probably 6-8 months? Just slow yourself down. Make sure to take appropriate risks. Try not to put yourself into a position where one bad decision wipes you out. W's are bullish, M's are bearish. I don't see any W's here. I suppose there was a cute little one that came in here recently, but given how far we've come here, I can't buy something that looks like that. Ironically enough, totally side conversation. I'm hearing people are getting excited about, I think it's XLP, the consumer staples part of the market. And I think, although this, I don't know what the hell this is. It might be a little bit nosebleedy. Let's see. No, actually, I don't even like that. Isn't that interesting? I thought I heard somebody talking about W's there, but I don't see any W's there. So, no, this whole damn market just looks like poop. Who was it that I heard was talking bullishly? Actually, a stock that I'm very interested in right now, Conagra, because it's cheap. So, if anything, that's the kind of image that I'll be buying what is down here, and then when it does 50% retracements, I get the hell out. I don't think that's a technical buy just yet, but ironically enough, that's the kind of market that I like to get interested in, cheap stocks that are down at the bottom ends of their ranges. So, uh, actually, one part of the market that actually looks really interesting in here are these alternative fuel stocks. I'm not quite sure why, but that's the kind of image that I like to see if I'm thinking about risking my hard-earned money in the marketplace. ZMWs, when they fire, oh boy, big things can happen. So, and this is a play on natural gas. And usually natural gas does better when the broader market's not so happy. You can see natural gas trying to bottom, but kind of got bitch slapped here. So I don't know whether it's quite ready to turn the corner or not. Anyway, all right, I think I'm going to leave the rant at that. Wish us luck on the roads this afternoon. We'll see everybody on the site tomorrow. If there was any further points you wanted to speak about, maybe just write a note and we'll circle back around and look at this tomorrow through the behind the paywall. Maybe everybody who is planning on doing the one-on-one program with me in the new year, just touch base with me again. If you are watching this, just so we're all on the same page, I'll probably send emails and stuff out to that effect. Level 3ers, we are now heading into options in earnest. So next month or so, we'll be buried in options land for the level 3ers. Just be very, very careful with your hard-earned money right now. This is the easy part, right? We had actually a pretty easy go of it over the past 6 months. I think there was a lot of money made, and I got to tell you, I took a lot of money out of the market here recently. My feeling is those easy days of just shit just goes up. I think those days are behind us now. So wherever this floor does come in, we'll probably see a resumption of the up, but just go slowly here. Let this floor develop. And of course, try and buy, there's a lot of names that I really like in the stock market right now. It's just they're a little bit too expensive right now. So if anything,
recording
in our
stopped
club, we talk lots about how pullbacks are buying opportunities in this particular name. And that's kind of how I'm looking at the broader market. And unfortunately, crypto names they're not part of that conversation. So anyway. Okay, everybody, have yourselves a great day. PMA for the win. Slow and steady wins the race. Remember what your number one job is. Don't take no win nickels. The only prize that you is. Bye for now.